People just want to hear,
Yeah.
they want to hear an honest story and a great performance. And that was a big thing for me because I was when I was doing that, it was like I only had a certain amount of time to finish a song. And I'm somebody who's like a super
Yeah.
perfectionist. I will go back and rewrite and do all of this stuff, but I'm like, the record needs to be done in 3 days. Like whatever I'm writing right now is it. So
Yeah.
I kind of just had to allow myself to be like, I'm going to do my best, and whatever shows up on the record, it's honest, it's real, and I feel it, and everyone in the room felt it, my producer felt it, and that is good enough. Like
Welcome to Why Not Both, the podcast all about how our multiple passions shape our identity and our lives. I'm your host, Pam Schaefer, and our producer is Laura Studeris. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine. If you like what you hear, you can head over to our Patreon to support us directly and get transcripts of all of our episodes, or you can come hang out with us on your favorite social media platforms, where we can be found under WNB the podcast. For this episode, we spent time with Bryce Drew, who is a brilliant and wonderful eclectic musician and writer. I hope that you enjoy our chat.
So yes, you painted all of your walls during lockdown, and I was like, tell me more about the color selection, because that was what first struck me, is it's just so beautiful.
yeah. Well, this room that we're in is my studio, so I wanted it to feel a little bit more grounded, but at the same time moody, so I can get emotional in my music in here, and focus. And I live in West Hollywood, in a busy area of Los Angeles, so I felt like I needed something that would kind of keep my feet on the ground, you know? And
Yes.
the rest of my home, I have my living room is peach, so it's airy, and my bedroom is like a very light blue, so it's calm. And I kind of like
Oh.
I got very obsessed with it. I would like stand in different corners of my apartment and try and see all the colors from one area and feel how they complement each other. It's super silly, but very effective.
That speaks to my heart. I was like,
Oh,
for one, that's really funny. I lived in West Hollywood for years and just moved up to Beechwood. So
oh,
like I'm right up the road.
yes. So you know
I
what I'm
was
talking
like,
about. Yeah. Beechwood is
yes,
gorgeous.
yes. And like it's so funny. Like I feel like I'm in a different world, even though I'm like 10 minutes away from where I was. And like I was born in West Hollywood. I was born at Cedars.
Oh, no
And
way.
so like yeah.
How funny. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. More than I know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yes. That's what was so funny. I was just like, "Oh my goodness." And one of the reasons I moved was that during lockdown I kept redoing my space, but I realized,
Mhm.
especially being from that space, even making like a 10-minute jump to another space made such a big difference and informed like how I thought of my space differently, and a lot of that
Wow.
had to do with color.
No way.
Like yeah.
Tell me more. What did you do?
Like when I designed this room, this is my studio too. Like you can see
Mhm. Yes.
I'm like,
You
let
went
me
for
wiggle around. There's
depth
like,
of color too. Hmm.
yes, yes. And I was trying to figure out if I wanted to paint or if I wanted to do something different, because if I get curtains, I can change the color of the room and make it that warm moodiness while changing the sound in the room.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So, yes.
Exactly. I have right in front of me, you can't see it, but I have curtains that are like heavy velvet, the same color as the wall. So I understand completely.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
And the whole apartment was white
Oh,
before, so it changed the entire feeling. Hmm.
yes. Like when I moved in, it was same thing. There's all white walls with white trim and all of the lights. I was just like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna tone that down."
It makes the biggest difference. The biggest difference.
I don't know if you feel this way when I'm writing. I like to feel almost like cozy and kind of ensconced, and like I can tune into elsewhere. Whereas if it's too bright or too like lively, I feel like I'm tuning into the outside instead of the inside.
Exactly what it is. It helps you focus on what's in your mind rather than drifting around.
Yes. Ah, how long have you been in West Hollywood?
Almost 5 years now. I was in Nashville before, and I'm from Miami, so
Ah.
yeah.
What feels different in the different places? Like, how do you feel like it changes what you end up creating?
Oh, there's a big difference. I feel that West Hollywood is much more similar to Miami in a way. Like I haven't out of the three places, Nashville is the most different, obviously. Like they both West Hollywood and Miami are both by the ocean. They both have a very diverse community and artistic in a different way. Like as far as color and aesthetic and everything we were just talking about, Miami is huge. I know West Hollywood, like the traffic right now. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh my
Nashville
goodness.
doesn't
No,
have
that
that.
definitely is. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot going on outside. But you have the ocean, you have visual arts all around, and different kinds of entertainment. Nashville, for me, is storytelling and quiet, and it is emotion too, and it's connection. But those are more the center than it is other forms of art, other elements of art. I feel
Mm. Mm-hmm.
so. Yeah, when I'm in Nashville, I'm much more focused on the bones of the story and just telling the story. And I try and take that anywhere I go, but I do feel that sound wise, when I'm in Los Angeles or in Miami, like I can go different places. I'm a little freer sound wise.
Hmm. That's interesting that like the proximity to like the ocean and openness and like you said also kind of like it's interesting to think about like the bones of the story versus almost like the trappings of the story.
Yeah.
Um that in some ways that's good to be in a place where you can focus on like what's the skeleton, what's the structural integrity, and then you go elsewhere and you're like, okay, what are the frilly bits that I'm going to put on this?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's like how do we color it, right? Like once you get the outline, you get where it's going, like how do you then capture the emotion in a way that's different and unique to you?
yeah. Ah, I love that. Like, have you found that you've had different collaborations in the different places?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, when I was in Nashville, I was studying songwriting, and it was different. We were all learning how to write music, and when I go back to, it's just there are a lot of people who are mainly songwriters, and that's a beautiful thing. But in LA, my experience has been
Mm-hmm.
totally different because I moved here to make my record and work with uh, mainly one producer, but there are a lot more people that are artists or producers that are willing to experiment or have a certain thing going than I come across in Nashville. I'm not saying that there aren't
Hmm.
artists or producers out there. There are. They're just a different kind of experimentation.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like the kind of experimentation that's going on in LA right now must have really resonated with you to move out here. I was like, oh, that's really
Oh,
bold. I was like, I
yeah.
admire that bravery.
Thank you. Well, I do think you have to like go where you find the right collaborators and the right energy for you. And for me, that was here.
Yeah.
You know, I have friends where that was Nashville.
Yeah.
But for me, to have the ocean and people who are inspired by multiple genres and all different kinds of instruments and soundscapes that are different to my own was more inspiring, and I felt made me want to focus on creating my own thing more than it did when I was in Nashville.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you bring up the ocean a lot. I spent a
Yeah.
lot of time swimming in the ocean as a kid, and I was like, do you go to the beach a lot?
I do. It's my place. It's my place. I mean, I grew up in Miami on the boat on the weekends, and my mom is from Trinidad and Tobago, so I grew up on the islands, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a big part of me. So it was a big selling point on LA because I was like, I can just drive to the ocean whenever I want to, even though it feels like a different kind of
Yes.
ocean. It's still the ocean, you know?
That's what I was actually about to ask, because I was like, our ocean is actually really cold.
It is, but it's still the ocean. It's still that like vast, mysterious place that you can just feel. You can feel the power just standing right next to it and forget about everything, but also think about everything at the same time. It's magical, you know?
Yes. Yes. Like, growing up going to the beach, oftentimes, like, I discovered as a teenager once I got my license that I could drive to the beach and not even go in the ocean. I could like sit by the ocean, and I was like,
Yes.
oh, because I remember, I don't know if you had this experience, but as a kid, whenever I was at the beach, I was just like, must go swim, this is what happens at the beach, go in the ocean.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And I
But
didn't
that's,
understand, like, why are my parents not hopping in?
yeah. It's definitely much colder here. But there are days in the summer when you're just like, yeah, this is the move. It's time. This is my one
Oh,
shot.
yes.
This is the one
Yes.
season where it's totally gonna be okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's also, I find that there's something so comforting about going in the ocean and being super cold and like kind of losing feeling in your limbs, but then coming out and getting to wrap yourself in warm coziness and like watch the waves.
Yes.
Very, very unique, very refreshing, seems masochistic, but feels amazing.
Yeah, it's invigorating. Especially when you're like, can I do this? Are you sure I can do this? And then you get in there and you're just like, I did it. I totally did it.
Yes.
And it was worth it and I feel alive.
Oh, this makes me so happy. And I'm like, gosh, I haven't been to the beach in a hot minute. Like, I had promised myself this summer, oh, I'm totally going to go to the beach more. And did I? Like, no.
I know. It's always like that. I went a few weeks ago and I was just like, it's not like it's that far. Why don't I just make it a point to take a little drive like once a week, cleanse my soul?
Exactly.
But I always, it's just a
Exactly.
thing. It was the same thing in Miami. Like when you live near the ocean, you you don't think about it. But it is nice that it's there, you know? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's comforting that it's always there when you do remember. And then you're like, oh, yeah. And the ocean's like, I got you.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, you should go soon.
Oh. I was going to say, I'm already thinking, I'm like, do I have anything on my schedule tomorrow? Can I just go to the ocean?
You totally can. You totally can. Work it around the schedule. Do it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm like, I've got sunblock. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can do it. I can do it. And thinking about like place, I'm curious, how much were you like with your mom and your family like in Trinidad when you were a child, and when was the last time you were back? Like, we haven't been able to travel as much recently,
Oh my
obviously, and so I'm like,
gosh.
oh,
Yeah, I haven't been since I was 18. So, like when I graduated high school, that was the last summer that I would go every summer, and my family would come from Trinidad to Miami and we'd just go back and forth. But after when I graduated high school, it became harder and harder to go because it's not that it's close
yeah,
to Miami, but once I went to Nashville, like the first summer I was in London at a music festival with my friends, and the next summer I was like taking classes over summer, and the next summer I graduated and moved to LA. So there were other things
yeah,
that And now I'm super far away from Trinidad. It's like the southernmost island of the Caribbean. So to get there, I would need to go to Miami and then go. So I'm hoping soon I'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to go visit my family, and I'd love to play a show out there. I haven't been. It's been a long time, so it would be really nice to.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's a huge part of growing up for me.
Yeah. Like thinking about place and even starting to talk about color, like at the very top of the conversation, I was like, oh, I wonder if any of the colors like from your childhood like did inform kind of that sense. Because
Yeah.
there's this very LA thing, especially recently, where people are like, oh, everything is like taupe
Oh
and
yeah.
beige and I'm very much not that, but like whenever
Yeah.
I see people employing like a lot of colors, sometimes I'm like, oh, I wonder where a lot of those colors are coming from.
Yeah, it's
Like,
definitely the Caribbean, Miami for me. Also, I grew up with my mom being a creative director, and my Aunt Holly, my godmother, is a painter. So I grew up around a lot of
oh,
color and a lot of conversations about color. Um, and that's a way that I bonded as an artist with them, where our language kind of crosses over.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but a lot of these, I mean, even this color behind me is very tropical, like the ocean. And in Trinidad, the colors are very, it's like a rainforest on the water. So everything's very deep and
Mm-hmm.
tropical and rich pinks and blues and greens. And Miami has a more Art Deco-y pinks and blues and whites, and a little brighter and poppier. So that definitely comes
Yeah.
into play, I think, and pattern too in the Caribbean and Miami and Wynwood, the art scene out there. There's a lot of geometric patterns and use of line. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that inform then kind of like the visual art that accompanies your music?
Oh yes, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. I would think with my music, I think more about the emotion than I mean, I think about all of those things, but it's mainly about how does the color tell the story of the emotion in the song. Like if you haven't heard the song before and you look
Mm.
at the visual, can you tell what it sounds like? Does it make you feel that, or does it make
Right.
you feel the same world of that story,
Yeah.
because I think that, like, there's a reason why the word tone and texture, like those two words, are used in both color and music, because it's like the
Yes.
way that we communicate emotion in both of those things. And is there a way to take, if you say
Yes.
that like a voice sounds warm or a song sounds warm, then shouldn't the image feel warm when you look at it? You know? Like it
Yes.
doesn't even have to be, if you say a color in a song, it doesn't have to be the same color that's said in the song. It has to do with the aura of the song. Like how does it, if you close your eyes, what does it make you feel?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and color has so much meaning across cultures. I've been reading a book and I'm trying to remember the title because it's a very evocative title. It's like The World According to Color. It's so funny because like I can picture the book itself because it's a beautiful color spectrum, and I believe it's by James Fox. I usually am
Mm-hmm.
reading 3 books at the same time. Welcome to
Yeah,
ADHD. It's fun.
I love it.
But like, but what I like so much about the way the book is structured is that it's structured by color, but it's like a cross anthropological storytelling of these different colors and what they mean over time.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I feel similar to you, where it's like if I'm creating a visual, like I want the visual to have that same tone as the music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to think of all the different cultural connotations that come with different colors.
Oh yeah.
Like I love the vibrancy that you just described of the tropical colors, but that's going to hold like a very different cultural connotation than
Mm-hmm.
someone else seeing a vibrant color. And I was like, oh, There's so many good color stories to tell.
That's so true. Yeah. And it's also how the different colors work together, right? Like in the islands, if you see, it's very colorful. Like you would see a blue with a red and a yellow. All, I mean, that's all primary, but like you would see everything kind of at once. Where I feel, um, rather than it just being one vibrant color, like what story that's going to tell to somebody who's not used to seeing that combination. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It kind of matches what you said about like people, at least in LA that you've been collaborating with, have been able to kind of almost like cross pollinate with different genres, but it's like that contrast that ends up
Yes,
creating something
exactly.
new.
That's the only way to create something
Yeah.
new, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are gonna like it, some people
Yes.
aren't, but you gotta try it. That's the only way to. That's the only way to make it happen, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And thinking about that idea of some people are going to like it and some people aren't. I find that, and I don't know if you have this feeling, my least favorite thing is when I present something that I've made to someone and they go, "Oh, cool." Like I'd rather them be like, "Oh my god, I hate this," or like,
Or like, I
I'd
love
rather them have
this
like some sort of
than a
yes,
cool. You did that. That's awesome. Like, not even that's awesome, but good job.
yeah,
Yep.
where it's like, "Oh, great!" Like that's how I know. Like I'm like, okay, I gotta push it.
You're in the
further.
safe zone. Yeah. Yeah. The safe zone's not a fun place to be.
No.
No.
It can be scary though sometimes to like push yourself out of that. Like I guess
Yeah.
when you're working on things, what helps you get out of that realm of like the known? Like what kind of gives you that little
I think it takes me a second to I have to finish it first before, and then like once I listen to it and I can hear like, oh, this doesn't feel like it's completely authentically me or something that like only I would do, or that just it screams like it's coming from my heart, you know? Yeah. You just have to sit with it, I think. It's easier
yeah.
because I do have sometimes I'll just like stop myself mid writing and I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not worth it because you're not going to finish it. You're not going to finish it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Do you ever return to kind of those like half-formed ideas or the ones that you didn't like push and find little nuggets in there? Or do you sometimes, or are you just like, no?
Yeah, no, I do sometimes. Like I think there's a reason why some of those ideas stick around as long as they do. Like if you still remember it a year or two later and it wasn't done, there's a reason why it's in your head, you know? I think.
Yes.
There's something in there.
Yes.
Or else you would have forgot about it. And
Yeah.
then like that was not good. Goodbye. Like yeah. I don't want to remember.
This goes in the random pile of notebooks over here. It's fine. Yeah, that'll happen sometimes to kind of, go back. And do you like to write, I guess, like manually in a notebook, or are you more of a voice notes person? Like when you're creating, what do you like to do?
Both. I definitely found that writing in a notebook is more efficient. Like I feel like it's more natural and you get less distracted by other things, and you can write things before you actually think them when you get into a certain point. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the free write and the let your hand kind of just move on the paper. I find that like when I'm using my notes app or my phone, I get in the habit of like erasing things and going back, and it's just like you lose that pattern of naturalness, or seeing like you could delete the thing that maybe was a good idea because you were editing in the process, and now you can't. Where on a piece of paper you would have just scratched it out or moved to the next line.
Right.
I think all of that stuff is really important. Yeah. I do use voice notes too.
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. See, I find it easier for concentration.
Yeah. I love hearing like how songs evolve over voice notes too. That's always fun to kind of go back and be like, where did this, how,
It's so funny. My song that I released last week, I have a voice memo of my producer Greg. We had just come up with the first line of the chorus. We didn't have anything yet. Like the chords weren't even fully put out yet. And he's just like, okay, I don't want to do this, but I have to go brush my teeth right now. Like that's in the voice memo. And I'm like, go brush your teeth right now. And he's just like, I gotta brush my teeth. Did you brush your teeth? I gotta brush my teeth. And I'm just like, why is this in the voice memo? Because we wrote the song at a seminar, so there were like 19 people watching us write the song. So he's like, if we're gonna go get up in front of a room full of people and write this song, this is important. So
he's like, I gotta be ready.
So I have like proof on voice note that we came up with that song when he needed to go brush his teeth. It's the best ever. It's the best.
I love that. I love that he's like, no, this is mission critical. Hold up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so you wrote that song in front of people during a seminar? I was like, tell me more.
Yeah. So Greg, there's this thing called Mix with the Masters. It's an audio event, and we were in the south of France for 5 days, and there were just a group of 20 people who flew out and spent the week with us and just watched us write and record this song. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy.
Wow.
It was well, for me, it was like the song is personal to me, so I kind of just told them all about my life, and I would like run away and write this lyric and come back and have to present it to people. It was pretty nuts. Yeah. And the vocal that's on the track was recorded in front of all of them. So it's all in the moment, like right when I wrote the song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and all of that is extremely vulnerable.
Yeah. They were so supportive though. It was a really cool process to feel like, okay, I need to like, first of all, this song needs to be honest, because if we end up putting it out, I want it to be real to me. So that was the most important thing, right? Like whatever I showed up with that day was like something that I wanted to write about. And that Greg, my co-writer and producer, felt the same way about it. And we did. But they were all like Greg was coming up with the track and I'd run away and write the lyric and come back and we'd bounce everything off of each other. And they were super excited, where I was like, I can't tell if this is good or not. Like, I'm just going to throw stuff out there just like I would if no one was in the room. And it was a beautiful experience, you know? It was challenging, but also encouraging, because there were times when I thought like something was maybe not the best, but everybody was like, don't trash that. Like, trust yourself more.
No, wait, this is good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about having an audience for the creation process. Like when you're in the creation process, there is almost an imagined audience if you're thinking of sharing something. But to have an actual audience there, it's like you're getting real-time feedback.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're on stage writing a song.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you end up getting to like actually get to know the people who were witnessing this, or like was there kind of like a back and forth? Or
yeah, we did. I mean, we were all kind of staying on location at the studio for that week. So we all like had lunch and dinner together for the week and got really close, almost like a little camp, you know. So we still talk and stuff on social media. So it was a very moving week, and it was cool. Like I doubt I'll ever have an experience like that where that many people are welcomed into my process. It was very cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did, like, after that, has it changed the way that you write?
I think it was a good reminder to put less pressure on yourself when writing, because people just want to hear, they want to hear an honest story and a great performance. And that was a big thing for me, because I was, when I was doing that, it was like I only had a certain amount of time to finish a song. And I'm somebody who's like a super perfectionist. I will go back and rewrite and do all of this stuff, but I'm like, the record needs to be done in 3 days. Like whatever I'm writing right now is it. So I kind of just had to allow myself to be like, I'm going to do my best, and whatever shows up on the record, it's honest, it's real, and I feel it, and everyone in the room felt it. My producer felt it, and that is good enough. Like I'm not gonna touch it, and I can't. And that was a really good reminder, because like I said, I tend to be someone who writes something and goes back and is like, wait, it's not ready to record yet. Or even like when we recorded my song Lucky Number, Greg, my producer, had mastered it, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I need to edit the verse. after it was mastered. And he let me do it, but I was just like, sometimes you just gotta let it go. It's move on to the next song and trust that it's right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That trust in yourself, that sounds like almost, the people around you trusted you to be doing what you were doing. And you're like, oh, maybe I could trust me like they're trusting me.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, how did you meet Greg? Because I was like, he sounds like a really, or I'm sorry, are Greg's pronouns they or he, or I don't want to mispronounce.
It's he.
He. He sounds like an integral part in what you've been working on lately. Of course.
Yeah, he is. So I met Greg through my college mentor, Jody Marr. She worked on the Mika record with Greg. So she wrote the song Grace Kelly. And so basically, I went to Belmont University in Nashville, and one day I had seen Greg do a seminar. I was in the audience with Jody interviewing him, and just the way that he was talking about being an artist and what it means and the kinds of things you should be focusing on and what he looks for in a record and a song. It was different than what all the other seminars I had sat in as a student in Nashville. It was different in the way that I had explained about finding the unique thing for you and chasing a certain part of a song and being an artist. Those things I felt at the time. Nashville's developed a bit since I've been there, but it was much more country focused and songwriter focused. And it felt like everyone who came to talk to the songwriting majors had a certain plan. It was like spend every day writing songs for other people, take your demos down Music Row, get a few cuts, and then you can make your own record. Like build that kind of, like that repertoire, and build your name up a bit before you can focus on yourself as a songwriter. And for me, I had been writing songs, but it was all like mixed genre and nobody knew where to put me in the industry. And at the time in college, I didn't realize that was because I was writing my own songs, because everybody around me was writing songs that were to pitch for other people. And I felt like, oh, that's what you have to do. So I would show people these songs.
Right.
And they'd be like, that's great. Keep writing. I don't know where to put that. Like, but when I saw Greg, talk, I was like, this guy gets what I'm talking about. Not only has he worked on some of my favorite records, like he did One and Only for Adele and Katy Perry, like some stuff for Katy. I was just like those are songs I grew up with as a kid that just made me like dream of being a singer. And he just, like, it's how he made me think of different paths in my career and different things that I could be focusing on that wasn't just the one Nashville way that seemed to be the boxes to check. And so after Jody became my mentor after that seminar, and a year later she introduced me to Greg, and I met up with him and we had a coffee in LA, and that turned into, why are we here having coffee? And I was like, well, I feel like we should make music together. And he was like, that is bold.
Yes.
That is very bold. Me, fresh out of college, just like, well, I'm here. I'm gonna shoot my shot. And
Yes!
I played a few songs for him with just me and a guitar, and he was like, let's make a record. And I moved out here 3 months later and started working with him.
That's amazing.
And yeah, we've been working together for 4 years now. So he changed my life. He made me think, where is my record? And he just wanted to take what he saw of me playing with my guitar in front of him and capture that. He didn't want to change it. He didn't want to make it something that he can like pitch to somebody else. Like, he wanted to put that
right
where it belonged, like in my vocal, you know? Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah.
Well, finding someone who sees you and believes in you in that way and fosters what you have instead of trying to alter what you have is vital.
It's huge. It's such a big deal. And I realize how lucky I am to have found that. I know a lot of people who are still looking for that. And I can't imagine not having it. Like I said, it like gave me a certain confidence and security in what I'm doing. Even when it does get hard, when on days when I feel like I don't have that big of a team around me and I'm an independent artist and I'm doing this, like I know that I have him, you know, and that he sees it in a certain way. And somebody believes in it. And having somebody who believes in it is the biggest thing, I think. Other than yourself, for the days that you need that reminder. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's so much of it is that trust that we were talking about before, where it's like when it's just you, there is a certain amount that you can trust yourself. But at a certain point, like one of my friends referred to it as like healthy delusion. Mm-hmm. And I love that framing of it, where it's like you have to believe in yourself to a certain extent that's like lightly delusional to be an artist, because you have to believe that the thing that you are making that no one else has seen, that even you haven't seen, is going to be worthwhile.
So true. Yeah.
And then having someone because otherwise, why would you be making it?
Yeah.
And having at least one other person to be like, yeah, keep going. Mm-hmm. That can be really important, because sometimes in the middle of the process, you're like, am I doing this right? Like,
oh my God, it's so easy to get lost in it. Yeah, definitely. Or somebody to be like, that's not it. Like, you've done better than that. Do it again differently. And like, it's good to have those people that can just keep you centered, you know?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like thinking about even mentorship in the music industry, like you said, a lot of people haven't found that person. And a lot of times what I hear about is people that like find a mentor or find someone that they, you know, that spots that talent in them and spots that like spark, but then they want to change that spark. And that kind of undoes the idea of mentorship, at least in my mind, where it's like you shouldn't be mentoring someone to be someone else. You should be mentoring them to like be themselves, but even more so.
Yeah, to better what they've already created. Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure that that you're putting that trust in the right person, right? Like, they're not trying to change you, that that they see something in you and they want to take that and expand on it and show you how to be the best version of that. Definitely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And what you're talking about, I very much relate to the idea of you present songs and people are like, that's really interesting. I have no idea what to do with that. Because trying to write for other people is a very different skill set. Like that's a
It is.
totally, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have to think less of
Like,
what would I sing and more of what would everybody sing or what would that specific artist sing. Um, it's different. I mean, for me, like I do these funky guitar things and I do these weird riffs or vocal melodies that just like naturally happen that jump around that are less accessible
mm-hmm.
or maybe in a weird range or just something that makes it not as easy to just let someone make it their own, right? I think
Yeah.
that can be a thing.
Definitely. Like I remember learning more about songwriting for licensing and things like that, even like writing to cue, where like the only way I was able to do it was to pretend that I was someone else, like to actually make up a character
Mm-hmm.
for that piece of music. Like it went
Yeah.
beyond even creating a setting. But there was one that I wrote that it was really funny that it ended up, I don't, what was it even used for? I was just like, also fun fact about ADHD, my memory, I will remember like the most obscure things, but the actual important things, my brain's like, nope, can't retrieve that file. And I was just like, it would be nice if you could, because I remember the character that inspired this one thing was supposed to be about like getting what you want, and I remember being like, I'm not really a pushy person. I was just like, who should I write this from the perspective of? And I was like, Angelica from Rugrats.
Oh
That's
my
what I'm
god,
gonna
how
go with.
amazing. I love that so much. I mean, that's such a way to concentrate into an idea, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's so random. I love it.
And that's, I mean, like thinking about, being in songwriting classes and things like that, it's genuinely like, I think for some people, it's easy to tap into that. It's almost like you already have the palette, you already have the character. Whereas it sounds like for you or for me, it might be like the opposite, where it's like, okay, no, that's like extra level challenge to be like,
Yeah.
how do I write something for someone else?
Yeah. And you also have to, I think it is a thing to learn because you have to learn when to turn it on and when to turn it off, right? Like, because then when you're working on your own
Yeah.
artist stuff too, like, I feel like, for example, with this song that I just released, it's called Still Recovering, but the chorus has this synth thing that comes in out of nowhere and the verses sound like a ballad. And I love that about that. My producer loves it. It's like the thing that makes it different, but it also makes it
Yes.
hard when you're talking to tastemakers and playlisters and people who like want to put it in a certain kind of a box where it's like, well, where does that go? Same thing where it's like, oh, is it that or is it
Right.
this? And you're like, well, it's both of them. Why can't it be both of them? Because I just made something new. But then it's like, oh, but it's to that and it's to that. And it's just
Yes.
like, it's such a
Yes.
game. There's no right or wrong. And it's honestly just trusting where you want to go creatively. And as I was saying before, just being okay with some people liking it and some people not. And it'll probably not fit
Yeah.
in a lot of places.
Well, and that whole
Mhm.
idea of, I mean, even the thesis of the podcast, I hilariously named it
Huh,
after my favorite meme of why not both.
I don't even think about that.
Like,
Exactly. Exactly. I don't even think about that. Why not both a ballad and an
why
alternative
not both?
pop song? Why not?
I'm like, I'm totally on board with this. I love when something surprises me in a song or like
Mhm.
visually surprises me. I like juxtapositions. I like things like that because like I think about even in classical music, like analyzing like Mozart.
Yeah.
Mozart is like the most perfect music, but to me it's not surprising. And so I don't actively enjoy it when I'm listening to Mozart
Mhm.
because there's no surprises. It's almost like so cleverly wrapped that there's no like what
Yeah.
happened there.
It reminds me of when I was writing my song Lucky Number, Steve Perry walked into the studio from Journey. And
oh my god.
he ran out because he thought he interrupted my vocal. And I was like, Steve. So
like, come back.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, what is happening right now? So I walked outside and he just started to throw advice on me, the best advice. And one thing that he said was to promise him that I'd never make music by painting by numbers. And I was just, it stuck with me because you can tell. And he was just like, chase the goosebumps in the melodies. And to get to the goosebumps in the melodies, you can't paint by numbers. Because to do that, you have to surprise people. So it's definitely something to remember. Mm-hmm.
I love that. That and even I think about what you said about, you know, like some people are going to like it, some people aren't. Like I feel like in a lot of ways that happens with art that's kind of like either ahead of its time or, you know, takes a few listens. Like every time Fiona Apple puts out a record, it actually takes me a few goes to actively like really, really like it. I always love her work and admire her work, but her work challenges me to listen to it multiple times.
Totally.
And like
there's
I
so many
enjoy
layers.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
And I enjoy just like shout out to Fiona.
Yes.
And like I think about I was like, hello, Saint Fiona. No, I was listening to an interview with what's his name? Billie Eilish's brother Phineas. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listening to his description of a lot of the production work that goes into his records and hers as well, like I like that he uses elements of surprise. Like that's what I like so much about a lot of the music that like they make together is like I think it was a breakdown of the song Bad Guy that it's like it was actually made with different voice notes. Like that I guess Billy had made like a voice note of like that almost like that end part and was like, how do I fit this into a song? But then the beat was different. And like, that's what I like about that song is that it does feel like it goes different places. You don't know what's going to come next. And I'm like, that I really enjoy.
It's the best. I love that too. Yeah. It's like you can feel it throughout your whole body. You're just like, what just happened? Like, how did that go there? You know?
Yes. It's like, that's such a good feeling. I'm glad that you have someone that's on board with you that's like, yeah, ballad with alternative synth line in the middle. I'm just like, oh, yes.
Yeah, he's the one who did the alternative synth line. He thought I was going to hate it. I like walked in with the lyric and he was just like, yeah, I don't know if you're going to like what I just did. And I was like, what is going on? Because everything up to that point that we had done together had been very organic, guitar, piano, just natural instruments. And then all of a sudden it's like pulsating synth line going on in the middle, somewhere in the south of France, just like taking it to a new place. Like, wait, what? And I was like, I'm into this. Let's go there. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was good.
And that's, to trust someone with your ideas like that too. Like that shows that on your end, you really trust him that you're like, all right, go experiment. And the worst that happens is you're like, well, that sure went a direction. Let's try a different one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are things that both of us are like, yeah, no, keep that, scratch that. Like, it's just the way.
Don't do that other thing.
Yeah, don't do that other thing. Like, good try, but no.
Oh man, I just thought of like working with a friend of mine. There was a song that I wrote that, you know, was literally about it was about like depression, and he didn't like I sent him the voice memo with like just the piano and vocal, but he didn't know necessarily that it was coming from like, you know, like kind of like a ballad for depression. I didn't say that to him. I just was like, oh, I have this idea. And he took it in this almost like like Flume meets Lana Del Rey style like dance chorus, because he took "I Get Down" as
Yeah.
like I get down and I'm
Like,
dancing, not like I
yes.
get down puddle
Like
of tears.
literally down.
And
Wow.
yes, and it was so cool because like that's still one of my favorite collaborations with one of my friends, because like
Mhm.
he just like he heard it differently and it completely changed the direction of the song. But there's also that trust there of like, instead of me being like, how dare you make depression dancey, like I
Yeah.
was
You're
more like,
like, this
wow,
is
I
a
would have never
really
taken it that way.
cool.
I like
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. That was monster.
yeah, and finding people you can do that with is just priceless.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, it's supposed to be fun in that
I
way,
guess
you know?
yes, it's like the opposite of paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm. Just throw paint at me.
What's coming? I just imagine, what's the festival of Holi where they like
Yeah.
throw all of the colors.
Yes, exactly. Or like that scene in the Princess Diaries when you're throwing the darts at the paint balloons. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Like you never know which one's gonna splatter.
Oh. Oh, I guess what's coming up next on your landscape of things? Like you got to release something, but I don't know about you, I'm always looking at like, oh, I released something. What comes next? Like there's this
Yeah.
restlessness about me.
Oh, total restlessness right now. I have my first full band set next week. On the 22nd with We Found New Music, which is exciting. So that'll be fun. I have rehearsals tomorrow. I'm so excited to like hear everybody come together and like feel my songs come to life like they are on the record, but on stage, you know? That'll be really, really nice.
Yeah.
Especially because like the last 3 songs I released through the pandemic. So getting to actually perform it, you know, it's a different feeling. So
Yeah.
that'll be nice.
Yeah.
And then I have a music video coming, which I'm excited to see. We've shot it last week and I'm just like really
Ooh.
excited to like see it come to life. So in both ways, in the live setting, in the video setting, and then more songs. That's what's happening right now.
Ah, that makes me so happy. What's the conceit of the video? Like, where did you shoot it? I already am like, what colors are the happenings?
Ooh. We shot some scenes in the apartment in the different color rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went and we shot at nighttime in Koreatown. I had this hot pink sequin jumpsuit on in the cover art, and we shot in the same outfit so that you have the pinks and the blues coming together in a more live,
Yes.
real life feeling rather than just the lights. So like in the
Yes.
in the cover art, I used blues and purples and reds and pinks to symbolize the emotions of being overstimulated, and my face was all red. To feel this like everything is deep and vibrant, but it's also like draining me at the same time. So I wanted the music video to take those colors, but to show those feelings as they would be in real life rather than just a color. So we have like other people around me kind of like talking in my ears as I'm singing to the camera. There are performance scenes in Koreatown where I am standing in front of a lot of traffic. There's like a lot of external cool. I don't want to give all the video away. I kind of did, but watch it when it comes out. You know, that was the gist of it. Like, how do I pull the colors and show what emotions they symbolize?
Yes. Yes. I'm very excited to see it. And I was just like, oh, Grant runs We Found New Music. I was like, that's exciting. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been so sweet.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of Why Not Both. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform. You can also come hang out with us on social media. We are at WNB the podcast, both on Instagram and on Twitter. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine. Under the Radar is a nationally distributed print, music, and entertainment magazine and website. You can find them at www.undertheradarmag.com and feel free to support them on Patreon. Extra special thanks to our producer, Laura Studeris, who is literally a rock star. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next episode.